very special guest with us. One of our students, Larry Macari. Larry. Lawrence. Where did I call you Larry from? Where did that even come from? That was good. That was crazy.
That came out of nowhere.
Just spit rhymes.
I've known him for many months.
That's why I don't use it.
And I've never called him Larry ever. That was really funny. Anyway, Lawrence Macari is here. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Welcome to the pod.
You can't cut that.
No, I'm going to keep that in there.
Yeah, keep that in there.
You're going to be Larry from now on, too, just so you know.
No, don't do that. I'll explain the story about Larry. Yeah, Larry was this little chunky kid growing up. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, we're going to get into that then. So welcome. We brought you on because you've got kind of an interesting story. And we'd like to kind of, as we do on the pod, try to talk about people's history. Yeah. So why don't we start? Let's start with jiu-jitsu
that's
first.
really the driving force behind this podcast is, we talk about jiu-jitsu, but it's more about the people.
Yeah.
So how did you end up here?
I've had an interest in jiu-jitsu for quite a while. I tried it maybe 12 years ago, and I didn't really stick with it. It was gi. It was with gi, and I loved it, but I just didn't stick with it. I just didn't have I don't think I had the right mindset at that point in my life. There was still a lot of uncertainties and such going on, and I really wasn't sure really if it fit the path I wanted to be on. So when the opportunity came up to try it again, and I've been looking at 10th Planet for a while, and I wanted to try no gi. And the first time I tried it, it just spoke to me. I think it really, I think one of the things that really stood out in one of the first classes with Nate was be willing to fail. And that just resonated with me. It really resonated with just my life's journey about being okay with failure to really move towards success.
Let's pull that mic away right here. There you go. Yeah.
Is that good? Okay.
Yeah.
To move towards success. And I think, from that point on, I just, it was all about learning it and learning as much as I could. Is really in being totally immersed in it and outside of school watching it on YouTube and really learning a lot of the moves. And, it's been really, really interesting. And then you have the whole other aspect of it is just it's a great workout. It's a great 1 hour work. I don't think you get a better workout in 1 hour than jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's unlike anything else that you do. I agree.
It really, really is. Yep.
Especially the way we train now, right?
Yeah.
Action from bell to bell.
Bell to bell. Yeah.
No wasted time.
I actually mentioned this to Pat earlier today. I was curious to ask you, knowing that you trained a little bit beforehand, was it weird coming in here, or how did training here change your expectations, or what expectations did you have going in? I guess is really what I'm asking. Well, compared, right? Because
I was with I was with Gracie, and it was gi. It's completely different. Mm-hmm. It's completely different. I think the side control is different. The chokes are different. Mm-hmm. So it was completely different when I came in. It was. I think another part of it that really that I really embraced was, like Patrick said, you jump right into it. There's no hour of showing you what to do,
right?
And then 15 minutes of rolling. You just jump in the whole hour. You're rolling,
right?
And I thought that was cool. That also resonated with me.
Did that surprise you when you stepped in?
I don't know if it surprised me. I didn't know what to expect. I came in with no expectations. I think it fit what I wanted. I wanted to be in something more active, and it filled that void.
Do you remember what month you started last year?
I started, I believe, either end of August, beginning of September.
Okay. So we had 6 months or so under our belt with the ecological approach to all the live training. So we were probably in a pretty good routine at that time. We'd picked up a lot of the guys that are in the class now right as we were making that transition. So they had to grow with us a little bit.
Yeah. And a lot of them have stayed, right?
Yeah.
We've lost a few,
sure.
but a lot of them have stayed, which is cool too. And you got a lot of new people coming too.
Yeah, it was interesting. Last week, you and I were talking to someone who had stopped by, and they asked about how do you
do every class like this?
Yeah, do you do every class like this, and how do you learn the moves? And I was like, none of those guys have ever learned a move. Like, you were in the class, a bunch of other people, right? But I was like, most of these, I said none of these people had ever learned. Like, we've never taught them a technique. Right. Which is kind of cool to say. Like, I never really had the opportunity to say that before, but it was neat. She was kind of like, "Oh, okay."
Right, but they're still doing it.
Right.
And it's not just because they watch YouTube.
Right.
No, it's repetition, and it's really, for me, it's amazing because it becomes instinctual, right? And you figure it out, which I love too. Is you figure out. You can feel somebody's weight on top of you, and when they're a little bit top heavy on how you're going to sweep them, you can feel that. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you and I had a chance to roll for the first time, or train together. Sorry, for the first time last week.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because when you're kind of watching everybody, it's hard to tell. Like, you can see what people are doing, but it's hard to tell their intensity. I think I said to Pat afterwards, I was like, yeah, Lawrence was way more intense training with him than I expected you to be, right? I don't mean that as a slight in any way, but I was like, it's just interesting to see people's progression, right? Yeah. And I felt it with you much more than just watching it, right? Which is pretty interesting. So
no, it was great. Thank you for that. That was great rolling with
it was fun.
Yeah, it was really great.
That's cool. I think it is important for the coaches to get in there and mix it up every now and then. And I mean, I think it benefits both sides of the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it was great. Yep.
So, let's get into the little Larry story.
Yeah, let's hear about Larry. Not the guy that I called Larry earlier.
Yeah. Oh, Larry. Growing up, my mom called, gave me the name Lawrence. Did not give me a middle name because she goes, I just love Lawrence Macari.
Yeah.
It just flowed nice. So she goes, I don't want no middle name. And she used to get so mad at me when I'd say, Mom, I don't want to use Lawrence. I use Larry. And she used to get really mad at me. And so for years, I would just tell everybody my name was Larry. She would introduce me as Lawrence. So it's kind of like the split personality going on for many years. And as I got older, I embraced Lawrence, and I loved it. So, yeah, so Larry kind of died. Lawrence survived.
Larry is no longer with us.
Larry's
He never learned jiu-jitsu.
He never learned jiu-jitsu.
That's right.
Poor guy.
Yeah, it's so weird that I said that. I consider I've never called you that ever.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't even know any Larrys. Isn't that weird? Like,
I cringe when I hear it now, too. It's like, ew, Larry.
Yeah.
It's the perfect rhyme, though. It just rolled off your tongue.
It did, Larry Macari.
It's funny. My grandma was from Italy, and she used to call me Lorenzo on my mom's side. On my dad's side, my grandmother was from Italy, and she would call me Ladio, which is not even a slur of Lawrence. She just kind of made that up, and that stuck, too, for years, Ladio. So I had a bunch of nicknames.
Yeah, all right. Most people end up with a nickname somewhere because I'm terrible with names normally.
Yeah.
So they end up with some other nickname. All the people I work with are usually called by their initials.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps it simple for me.
I do the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
So talk to us about, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Windsor, Connecticut.
Okay.
Wilson, like on the Hartford end of Windsor. And then quickly transitioned out of Windsor. I bought my first house when I was 18, moved to Suffield, and I've been in Suffield ever since.
Okay.
Same house?
No, I've had several houses.
That would be quite the story.
That would be.
Yeah.
Dude, 10 years in the same house.
Yeah. That house was kind of the proving grounds of where I learned carpentry. That's how I learned to do my own carpentry.
Nice.
And then I was able to renovate houses after that.
Did you have an old house?
Yeah, it was an older house. It needed everything. And then the first big project was a bank foreclosure I bought when I was married, had the kids, and we got a house, a 4-bedroom house I renovated. And that was my first big renovation. And then from there on, I just renovated houses.
Nice. We were in a 1800s farmhouse in Suffield for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The old houses are something.
It certainly was something.
I restored 2 houses in Windsor. They're both 1780. And it was an experience with the horsehair, and the walls are like 2 feet off, and it was incredible. Yeah.
So you have had your hands in a lot of things throughout your life. Why don't you give us the rundown of your resume?
So I started out of school. I went right into my family business, which was a bakery business. My mom started a bakery back in the 70s, 74. It started off as a small retail, and it just grew, and it grew year over year into a very large business. That was Diana's Bakery. And it was Enfield, Connecticut. We had one plant, and we had another plant in Agawam. And it grew a spectacular growth. And it sold in 2017. It was bought up by a national company. But my mom started it. My mom started it. All the brothers joined, and we kind of collaborated on building this behemoth. A lot of the business was commercial. Most of the business was commercial. We did have some retail. And then I didn't know what to do after that. After that business sold, I didn't know what to do. I really didn't know what to do with myself. So I kind of just took a little bit of time, and I did something that I never thought I would, is I got involved really running a hospital. I ran all the food service for a hospital. And my mom was sick at the time, and I spent a lot of time in the hospital. And the food that they were serving was just, I couldn't believe. So I think that was part of it. And that resonated with me. The people that I worked with, I still keep in contact with today. I had about 101 employees and 12 managers. And they all still keep in touch with me. That was a really great, like out of the box. I mean, nothing I've done before. Not working in healthcare. I did it through the pandemic. And it was challenging, and it taught me a lot. A lot of life lessons.
Interesting.
You have some real food in that place?
They do. Well, I don't know now since I've been gone.
But they did.
I don't know. They sure did. Yeah, they really did. We had some really, really great food. We did some awesome catering, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, not something you think about very often, but I don't know anybody who's been to a hospital and said, I had some good meals here.
Yeah, it was really like that too. It was funny that I never thought in a million years I would do something like that, but it was great. It was a great experience.
And depending on how big the hospital is, I'm sure that can be a pretty large operation to
it was massive.
serve up that much food.
It was all of Bay State, and then they have Palmer, Greenfield, and was it? There's one more. Yes, it was big.
Wow,
big scope.
Yeah, and then what?
So that ended. The contract ended because I was working under a contract with them. It was 5 years, and I did nothing for probably 6 months, and I was so bored. I did the Peloton. I was like doing the Peloton every day, twice a day. I was in really good shape, but I wasn't really accomplishing anything. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I I did a couple of small culinary things. I worked with Grupalu up in Massachusetts, Grupalu Yoga. I did something with them for about 6 months, and then
Food related?
always food related, always culinary. Yeah. Always either pastry chef or full on culinary. And that resonated with me because it was really their focus was really organic, super fresh, super locally sourced, stuff like that. So that was a fun project. And like I said, that lasted about 6 months. And then I didn't really do a lot. I had a couple other consulting gigs I did. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Doro Marketplace. They have one in Windsor Locks, one in West Hartford. I helped them build 2 of those. And I did that over about, I think at 9 months I did that. And that was also great. I think the big thing was figuring out what I kind of wanted my forever job to be. And I focused on what I really love, which is food. But as getting older, you don't want to work in the food industry, working on a line or doing that. You don't want to do that stuff. I don't anyhow. Many people do, but I just did not want to do that. So I said, coffee resonated with me because it's the first thing I have in the morning, and, working in restaurants and stuff late at night, you're having coffee. So it made sense, but I liked the good coffee. So an old friend of mine, he reached out at the time when I was really didn't have much going on. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not really doing much."
Riding my bike like a madman.
Yeah, I'm not doing much. I said,
Just winning the Peloton challenge.
he goes, you want a partner and help me build this thing? I said, sure. So I went in, I looked at his mission statement, loved it. It was all about sustainability and taking care of the farmer, taking care of, and he's a nurturing person anyhow. He takes care of the people that are in his life. I'm closer with him than I am with my brothers. And he's a good guy, and we've done some pretty cool things. We've built in another direction. We kind of focused on colleges, and now we're moving more towards business and industry and a little bit of healthcare. And so it's been good. And the part of it that really I think fulfills me is it just makes sense. So many parts of my life I've done things because I knew how to do them, and necessarily do them because I wanted to do them, maybe because I was good at it. I did this because I wanted to do it, which was really cool. I got the opportunity to try something that I really wanted to do, and it's been good. It's opening doors up for other things too.
Was he already in the coffee business, or is this ground
Yeah,
up?
he has an interesting story. He started off as he worked on Wall Street as a stockbroker for many years. Became a VP over at Chase, and he got an opportunity. His wife's father had a coffee business. You guys probably know Omar Coffee. I don't know if you're familiar with it, out of Connecticut also, large coffee. And he came in as president of the company, and he built it from $5 million to $55 million in 10 years.
Damn.
Yeah. He's a beast. He's a business. He's a very, very smart guy. So he left that because working with family is tough. I can vouch for that. And he started this a couple years later. He's been doing it since 2009, and I came on about 2 years ago.
So give the people the information. What's the company called?
Sun Coffee Roasters. We're out of Plainville, Connecticut.
If you've been paying attention to the Friday Night Grappling League, we had some special
headline sponsor of
That's
the
right.
league.
That's right.
Alex won it all.
Alex took many, many bags of coffee. That's right. Him and Tony both. Yeah.
Hopefully he drank them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I saw Tony Vernazzo's shortly after. It must have been week 1, right? He won the first bag, and he posted a picture, and it was next to like a big fancy coffee machine. I was like, oh, clearly we gave it to the right person, right?
That's good.
It wasn't somebody with like a Keurig machine next to it, right? So
I know someone here asked me recently. I was like, "Oh, take a sample," and they're like, "Can I put this in a Keurig?"
Oh, they know the Keurigs. What the Keurig has done to our coffee world. Oh.
Yeah, I want to talk about that actually.
I have one sin right there it just needs to be walked out to the dumpster.
That's right. So how does the business operate? Like, give us some background on kind of how things work. Like,
so we have direct partners with farms. We built my partner Keith. He actually built partners over the last 11 years with direct contracts to the farms. So we will buy their futures. So we buy all their futures. Most farms are only producing 500 pounds. Maybe 1,000, depending on the size of the farm. And being that this is not an industrial type of coffee business where they have machinery that's pulling everything off your green, these are hand picked that they're only picking ripe beans. It's a lot to it. So what happens is that a farm will partner with their cousins or uncles, and they'll pull all their coffee together. Then it makes it valuable, right? It's 5,000 pounds usually is what we purchase at a time, and we'll buy their futures out. And we always do it, which is really resonated with me, was we always pay a higher than fair trade price, because fair trade doesn't always mean that it's a fair price. It just means what government has decided is a fair price. But most farmers don't really know what their profit and loss is. They don't know what a P&L is. So we actually will teach them. We'll teach them what a P&L is. They'll know what their cost is for the growing and manufacturing and shipping and all of that. We'll fill a shipping container, which is about $5,000 to $10,000 to get a shipping container. We'll make sure we fill it before we bring it over. Coffee will usually stay on the shelf no longer than 6 to 8 months. We never want to have coffee on the shelf, green coffee, for more than a year. Then you have to start having problems. And our roaster is one of 7 in the world. It's a hybrid roaster, which means that most are cylinder, and the cylinder heats up, and that's what roasts the coffee. The coffee's roasted right up against the flame. That's why there's no bitterness or aftertaste of the coffee.
Huh. No kidding.
Yeah, it's very...
What's that called? Like, how do you differentiate?
It's a Dietrich hybrid. It's a hybrid roaster. There's only 7 of them. There's one in Japan. There's one in Italy. There's one in Germany. They're like all over the world. It's a special roaster.
So the majority you're going to get has been done in a drum.
Right.
Huh.
Right.
I think I was telling you after you first gave me some that I usually don't like dark roast because the oily
Right.
Texture clogs up my grinder.
Right.
And it's a huge pain to clean it out.
Right.
But your dark roast does not clog up the grinder.
Nope. And the other reason is too is a lot of roasters that you see, they have the cylinder on top. They dump the coffee in. That's pulling all the air in too, as it's roasting. This is enclosed. You dump it from the side. It encloses and is roasted that way. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That kind of sold me too when I seen the operation. That he went and really purchased the best of the best. Mm-hmm.
So post roasting, what's next?
So we have customers that we have different layers of customers. So we have what we call toll roasting, which are customers that we are private labeling for. So we'll roast for them, and it's to their discretion how they want it, whether it's a 2-ounce bag up to a 8-ounce bag, and then we have, and those are all contracts. We have our customers that they'll place their orders. We roast the coffee fresh for them and ship it within 72 hours. Nothing's on the shelf. So all our green coffee's on the shelf, but no pre-roasted. That's why your Pete's and your Starbucks, sometimes the coffee tastes a little stale because it sits on the shelf for a long time. And then we have, we're doing some retail. We're expanding on that. Came out with a new package, supposed to have it in the next couple months. We're in all the big Ys right now. We're going to expand that. We have a plan to probably be in over 1,000 stores by next year.
I don't think I even realized that you were in Big Y. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's the old packaging. It's it's an ugly package.
Not your design?
No, the new package I designed. Yeah.
I would have bought it, but I've cleared that with the ugly old packaging.
Yes, that's it. That's it. And then we also own it. There's a partner company that we own. It's Silly Cow Farms, which is hot chocolate. We do a hot cocoa, hot chocolate, and that's national. So that's all over. That's actually in Canada too. So it's all over the country and Canada.
Very cool.
So that's a big company. That's a much bigger company.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Where are the majority of your farm partners?
So all over, I would say Central South America, because my opinion that I think it's some of the best coffee in the world. Guatemala, best coffee, my opinion. Of course, we do. We have partnership with Africa. We do Indonesia, a little bit of Asia, but for the most part, it's Central South America. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you drink your coffee?
Black.
How do you drink your coffee?
I don't drink hot coffee a lot, but if I do, it's either black or just a splash of cream.
Yeah, iced I'll have it just with like a almond milk or something.
We're cold brew basically year round at our house. We have 3 jugs in the fridge at all times.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yep.
Over ice, man. It's the best.
Yeah, and we'll do the same. We got the forget which brand it is, but it's a unsweetened vanilla almond milk.
Yep.
So will you make your own cold brew, or you?
Yeah, we have cold brew brewing all the time.
I've never actually made cold brew. I mean, we obviously made iced coffee, but never like an actual cold.
We've done it a bunch of ways, but right now we just a big mason jar with a metal strainer.
Yep.
It's funny because I do not consider myself a coffee expert by any means. In fact, I have gone through many different ways of making coffee in my house over the years, right? From a Keurig to an espresso to a Chemex to just a regular old drip, right?
Yep.
Like to a French press. And for the life of me, I can never make what I would consider to be a good cup of coffee, right?
Do you have a thermometer and a scale?
I have a scale, yes, and I have a thermometer. Yeah.
Do you use them?
I have a electric kettle that I can get up to whatever temperature I want. So I say all that because I'm curious to know, to you, what makes a good cup of coffee?
Yeah, so I've had it every single way, and I have every contraption.
It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, the best is when I was in Costa Rica. I got to visit the farm and have dinner with our farm partners. They made a beautiful dinner, and after dinner we actually went and got coffee, roasted it in a big cast iron pot, stirring it with a wooden spoon. And their coffee is very dark. They like a very dark, robust, but it pulls in all the flavors of what's around. In this, you get flowers and you get berries. You get all of that in the coffee, and you roast it. You grind it by hand in a hand grinder, and they pour it through. It's called the Costa Rican Sock. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where it's actual sock. And it's on a metal.
We should make a submission called the Costa Rican Sock, dude.
Yeah.
we have to.
We'll have to get me on
I don't know what it's going to be, but
some new footlock.
It's a footlock for sure.
I love it.
And they actually produce it. I don't know, they use one of their exotic woods and they make a stand for it, so it slides into a stand, and then you pour it over. And the reason it's so good is because it's not a real sock. It's it's like a canvas thing that soaks while you're pouring it into whatever you're serving it in. So they'll serve it in just like a water pitcher. And then when you remove it, you squeeze it out. It's the best coffee I've ever had in my life.
Huh.
Yeah.
How do you translate that? You can't translate that at home. Are you using a Costa Rican Sock?
I bought one. Yeah, I have
no
one,
kidding.
and I do it when I have time because it does take time.
Yeah.
I do it and I put it in. I have a vintage water pitcher that I do it in, and
Nice.
I'll just sit there and drink that for an hour or so.
Huh.
But it takes a little bit of time. But that's the best coffee. In Costa Rica, it does have very, very good coffee. It does in Brazil as well.
What is it about that process that makes that cup of coffee so good?
All right, so there's a couple things. I think when you do a pour over, right, your temperature is about 200 degrees, your water, to boiling. You're pouring it over the top, and it's flowing through the grounds, right? And you could slow it down based on how the grinds are and such. But I don't think it's extruding all the flavor,
It's
right?
just too fast.
It's passing through. Percolator is a little bit better because you're percolating the coffee up over, and it keeps on flowing until it gets to temperature, and then stops in the bottom, and that might be a little bit better. I think French press a little bit better because you're soaking the grounds before you actually push the plunger down. This, when you're pouring it, the sock is actually soaking in the hot water for a little while until you pull it out and then squeeze it out. So I think that's it. I think it just gives you more depth to it. It's a lot of depth. A lot of depth to flavor.
How about when you don't have time? Like, how do you, I got to be someplace. Yeah, what's your daily driver?
Just pour over. I just do a pour over. Yeah, I have a Chemex. I just do a pour over every day.
Because even that takes time.
Yeah, that's pretty quick. I mean, it's pretty fast. It's I'll get I have one of those, the countertop boilers.
Yep.
And I'll get it ready and jump in the shower. By the time it's hot and it's the right temperature, then I'll just do the pour over. I drink about 2 cups.
What's your preferred ratio of coffee to water, or water to coffee?
So for a pour over, you're using about 2 ounces, and and that's going to give you about 2.5, 3 cups. That should be about.
I'm gonna have to. I'll message you later because I'm gonna need to try your whatever Chemex ratio you're using.
Yeah,
I did like it because it was something very satisfying about like heating the water and like watering the filter and like slowly swirling it around. I used to be like, oh, I'm doing this is my coffee alchemy for the day, right? Like, but I think it just took too long for me. Like sometimes I'm like, I get out of the house, like I need to be done. Yeah, but the coffee was excellent. I mean, it tasted really good. It was hot, which I love a hot cup of coffee.
I think there's so many different ways to do it now, and it's so involved. I mean, you see YouTubes on people they're very, very involved in doing it. I think you start with a good bean, and that's half the battle.
You grind fairly medium heavy for your Chemex.
Yeah. Yep. Kind of the grind what we have here. I think that will work fine.
Yeah. I've done those samples straight into the Chemex. It's been good.
Yep. And that'll work with your French press as well.
So I used to French press, and then I went Chemex, but now I might go back to the French press. I don't know.
So French press is easy. Most of them are set up. The glass cylinder fits in either it's a metal or a plastic holder. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure the bottom. You want to use at least 2 ounces, maybe even a little more. You want to fill the bottom. So up to that first line, whatever that holder is where you want, and then you pour your water in.
When in the past when I've made coffee for like friends or family that aren't into coffee, they just do their Folgers through the the Mr. Coffee machine. Mm-hmm. They're always surprised by how much coffee goes into doing like a French press or a pour over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing to think back when I used to drink Hills Brothers when I was 13. How much coffee has come, to really understand what coffee is.
Yeah, it's funny. So my mother has used a Keurig for years, and I made her a Chemex cup one day, and she was like blew her hair off. Right? She was like poured like a ton of cream into it afterwards. Right? Yeah, pretty much. But it's interesting because now that I haven't used Keurig in years, we have one at the office, and like I'll put one in, and it just tastes like, you're like drinking it. Like I can taste the plastic. Yeah. Right. You can like literally taste the plastic that it's been sitting in for a while. It's really weird, like how the palate just kind of cleanses itself. Yeah. You get used to it.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. I went to Arkansas about a month ago. And I was blown away. There's a coffee brand there. It's called Onyx, and they're like the Instagram people how they treat their coffee. It's a show. Mm-hmm. So how they prepare a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee is $5 just for a cup of coffee, but it's a show. And people line up for that.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It is cool. It was really cool. Never thought in a million years I would love Arkansas, but
found some good coffee.
It was cool. It was a cool place.
Yeah.
You guys have any partners in Ethiopia?
We do. Ethiopian is we use a lot of their blends for. We blend it because it is a very acidy coffee. It's super high in acid, and a lot of the younger hipsters love that. They love the high acid. It's called Third Wave. Is kind of the it's a group of people that started back in I don't know if you guys are familiar with George Howell. George Howell was a roaster that Starbucks bought out back in the late 70s, early 80s. He had a big roastery in Boston. He's considered Third Wave. Is he roasts the coffee lighter and it's high acid. I don't really particularly like that, but there's a movement for it. So
is lightly roasted coffee typically more acidic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. But they use a lot of Ethiopian because that's a very high acid coffee, a lot of flavor. So we take Ethiopian coffee, and I have a Michelin restaurant that we make coffee for, and we use Ethiopian and Peruvian. Peruvian blends blends the acid more mild, and it's a very drinkable cup of coffee. It's great coffee. But Ethiopian is very, you'll taste the chocolates and the berries and all of that in their coffee. Rwandan coffee is fabulous right now. It's one of the best coffees in the world. Back about, was it 10 years ago when they had ethnic cleansing in the country, all the farms were left for almost 2 years without producing any coffee because the women didn't know how to do it. So the women had to slowly teach themselves how to manage the farms, and now it's some of the best coffee in the world. It's all women run.
Interesting.
That's cool.
It's all women run.
Anything to do with the not being planted or farmed during that time period? Like,
No, it's just it's kind of it's like it's like anything else. I think it's just keeping the soil. They just of course nothing's done industrial. Everything's done by hand pretty much.
Yeah.
So our fascination with coffee came from our visits to Ethiopia. My son's from Ethiopia, so we had to go there and visit a couple of times. And I mean, we weren't really coffee drinkers at all up to that point, other than a cup out of necessity on a long work day, and just got to experience a ton of the coffee culture in Ethiopia.
And I think that's part of it, right? I think for me, maybe that's why it speaks to me, is I get to see firsthand how hard somebody works so we can have a cup of coffee.
Right.
The amount of labor it takes.
Yeah. You should not be able to buy a cup of coffee for 50 cents.
It's true. It's absolutely true. Yeah. The history of coffee is interesting. It's very interesting. It's it's something, if you ever want to listen to a podcast on it, there's a podcast about how coffee started. And the French actually tried to produce coffee because they said, we can produce the best Bordeaux wines in the world. Why can't we produce coffee? And they couldn't do it. Because it's really
Just wouldn't grow there.
It's really about climate. It's about, your elevation, sun. It's all of that. So that's why, these countries that are doing well with it. And then the rainforest coffee had to figure out how to grow coffee in the rainforest, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah. I feel like such a noob with coffee. So I'm a simpleton.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated by all the different ways you can make it and the constant evolution of tools and gadgets and I don't know. I mean, I like gadgets as it is. So
it's perfect for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just got to get the palette for it.
Right.
So, I mean, for us moving forward, I think is I'm trying to sell this whole new category, which is really about bringing the coffee to companies that get it, that really have a sustainability issue, have a mission that's true to their company, not just talk. So we have opportunity with a large company now. I think they have they have more than that. They have 76 locations, and everybody's been trying to sell them. But they're
retail locations or like cafes?
Retail, cafes, yeah. They're building, but all the competition, and it's the same competition all the time, right? They're selling them coffee. And so my approach is that we're going to sell you something that is meaningful. We're going to come in and we're going to be the roaster, right? We'll be the roaster. We're roasting your coffee, but we're roasting it for the farm you choose. Here's a portfolio of 7-8 farms. You choose the farm. You get to advertise and highlight how hard these people work. You get to, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. You get to send your drones over there and do a drone of the property and see how hard these people work, and then put this on iPads so people can look at it while they're waiting for their cup of coffee. Really start becoming, more of a teaching platform than just a coffee company.
Are most commercially available coffees not single source? Are they? Unless it's single origin, it's a blend. Yeah.
My opinion is, I think single origin is great. I drink a lot of that. Like Guatemalan, I wouldn't ever mix anything with it. Yep. It's great alone. But it benefits the coffee if you can blend it, for sure. For sure.
Raise and decrease different qualities, sure. Yeah.
Yep. And to be very honest with you, a true single origin is extremely expensive. It's going to cost to the end user probably $30 a pound. because if it's a single origin, it's a very small farm. And that's a true single origin.
Oh, sure. That makes sense. So you were saying before that you made...
Because they'll, and that's not a single origin.
So is there a lot of false advertising with that?
Sure. Yeah.
I was thinking of it. I was watching something one time about olive oil, of all things, and they were talking about how olive oil is
like the mafia.
Yeah.
That's like the mafia.
So, like almost impossible to find something that's actually single source in olive oil. Just been so like...
Or even real olive oil. They said that's even tough.
Really?
Yeah. They said Italy is the hardest to get real olive oil from now. It's like Greece and Portugal, I guess, are making some really good oil now.
Interesting.
Yeah. Albania is making good oil. Yeah.
Random.
Yeah.
The olive oil mafias.
Yeah. Apparently. Yeah. I'm curious. I didn't ask you this in the beginning, but did you have like formal culinary training, or did you just kind of pick it up through the family business?
So that's a whole nother journey.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna need another hour for that.
Part 2, yeah.
So when I left the bakery, that was part of my journey. Is I actually went and worked in restaurants because of my background. I was a pastry chef for years. I was an executive pastry chef was my title. So I can make all the fancy little doodads. I can do all that. Decorate the beautiful cakes. I can do all that stuff. So I went and chose who I wanted to work with, and I worked with some really great chefs. I worked with some pretty memorable chefs.
So you got real training.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I never told them my background. I just said I'm a pastry chef. And I would go and help with pastry, and then, at service, I would help on the line, and I just would learn how to do that. And it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. And I got to work with a really great guy out of Chester, Connecticut, River Tavern. I got to work with Jonathan, and he was a really great chef. He was a Michelin chef. He came to Connecticut. He opened this restaurant, and he would do farm dinners. He would set up farm dinners. Everything was made at the farm. Everything. So you would harvest. You'd spend several hours just prepping, and then you'd serve 200 and some odd people under a tent. And you would get at the farm at 7 in the morning. You'd bust your ass until noon. He'd clap his hands. Come on, let's go. He'd set up a table under a tree, and you'd drink wine for an hour. You'd get so drunk, and then you go back and do dinner service.
Sounds good.
That was so much fun. That was so much fun. So I've had a lot of mentors in a lot of different directions in my life, and I've had a lot of really great people that have taught me a lot.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
Soundproofing just fell off the wall.
We lost the soundproof.
So that your education in the culinary world sounds similar to how we learn jiu-jitsu here.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have someone standing over you telling you,
no,
here, do steps A, B, C, and D. It's,
no,
here we are.
Yeah.
Here's where we need to go.
Yeah.
Go ahead and try it.
And that was kind of my journey too with sports and with just, I never did the team sports. I never really did team sports. I would do, I did tennis a little bit in school, rock climbing. I would do all the individual things, and I think that's the other part. I think that resonates with jiu-jitsu is you really compete against yourself, and just, the most important part is showing up. I think you just got to show up. You got to show up, and I try to come 3 days a week, no matter what's going on in my life. I try to get here for 3 days a week. Been pretty successful at that, and it's been working for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're here all the time.
Yeah,
definitely.
You're here more than
noticed. Yeah, it's definitely
not to put you in the hot seat and tell everybody your age, but you're a little bit older than our typical clientele.
Yeah.
And generally, when we get people older than our typical clientele, they have this thing in their head. I can't do this. I'm too old. I'm not in good enough shape yet. I'm too busy. I can't. What do you have to say to all those people?
I say, use it before you lose it. I say, get out and do it. And time is not your friend. I think for me, I want to do it all for as long as I can do it. I want to be able to attack life. I want to be able to do what I want to do. especially
not what you can do.
Yeah, especially if somebody says I can't. I want to definitely do it then.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not for you get hurt, you do, and you try to work through it the best you can. You should always pay attention to what your body's telling you. This tape is fantastic, but I think I spread it out enough for myself that I give myself enough time to heal between classes. And I think the big part for me too is there's a lot of community here, and this is the way you guys have really presented it. Is how everyone is very much community. Everybody takes care of each other. There's nobody trying to hurt you. There's nobody trying to, trying to show you they're better than you or anything. It's a lot of learning. You ask a question, you get a lot of answers, and a lot of good guys.
Happy to hear that. For me, when I'm looking at what we're trying to build here, it's how good you are at jiu-jitsu is several rungs down the list of the top priorities. But that top one is always the community.
Yeah, I find that. That's keeps me coming back, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I've been to other gyms, and I don't think that they have the same community. A lot of them are good. I might do gi a little bit again, just because I'm curious how I'd be now.
Every once in a while, we break the gis out,
Not this time of the year, but
No, not this time of the year. But we probably have, stupidly. But I started in gi too, so I have a little sweet spot.
I always have
for
one
gi.
on the shelf up there.
And I know
anytime anybody wants to put one in, and
you guys
give it a try.
You guys are friends with the Gracie over in Farmington.
Mm-hmm.
And they're nice guys.
Yep.
Great guys. A lot of older guys. There's a guy in
Yeah.
there that's like 60 something. He does great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trained with them in 2015.
Wow.
Before I opened a gym. Yeah, so I'm still really good friends with a lot of those guys.
Yeah. They seem a lot of the same community. I see
definitely.
there.
Yeah, they always support our events. So before we have class rolling in, you want to hit Lawrence with some rapid fire?
Yeah. So we always ask people this question, right? 'Cause it gets a little underneath the covers, away from jiu-jitsu, I guess. But if you were to have a match, a jiu-jitsu match, or an MMA match, I guess, it could be anything, right? Where you're going to have walkout music, what would be your walkout song?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say Sinatra. I did it my way.
All right, I'll take it.
That's legit.
That's legit, yeah.
Yeah.
Might throw people off a little bit, but then
It would totally throw people off.
But then respect for Sinatra.
We've gotten answers all over the board, so it's like there's no
There's
right,
no
right or
surprises
wrong
anymore.
answer. Yeah, right. Very good.
And then when people that aren't jiu-jitsu friends, you're out socializing, friends, family, whatever, ask you, what's this new hobby what is this thing? What do you tell them? Is it like karate?
Yeah, no, I go into depth with really what it is, and I think I even give them a little bit of philosophy on why I do it and how meaningful it is, and then they get it. I think if you just come in with it's a martial art, it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah, I did that too.
yeah, that's okay. I did Valari.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think if you for me, I had a question not too long ago. Being in my business, kind of in this level of my career, I get offers a lot on LinkedIn for other jobs, and I was curious. This guy kept bothering me. He says, "I want to interview you. I want to interview you," and so I did the interview with him, and I think it's good practice anyhow to do interviews. But I think one of the probably the best questions I think is for something to actually be important to you, it has to be meaningful to you. And at least for me to stick to something, it has to be meaningful. It has to make sense. Anything I do, because time, right? Time is so little.
Yeah.
And so the time that you are going to carve out for something has to make sense for something else. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I look forward to this. This is my hour that I look forward to, 3 times a week. I look forward to coming, which is going to be extended, right? We're going to do 90
hour
minutes.
And a half.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I get to be here even more.
50% more every week.
There you go.
I don't have anything to add to that. We should probably end on that.
Yeah, that was a great note
statement.
to wrap this up on and go get to class.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Lawrence. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you
Thanks for
guys.
coming
Joining
on.
us.
Thank you very much.
I won't call you
It's great.
Larry.
No.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to beat Larry up.